The sun rises over New Delhi, cutting through the morning haze with streaks of amber light. The city hums awake, horns, footsteps, the distant echo of prayer. In the midst of the chaos, a quiet power hums too. Not loud, not boastful, but growing. While the world watches the United States and China, another power is quietly rewriting the script of the 21st century. It does not announce itself with threats or dominance, but with persistence, resilience, and an unshakable sense of destiny. This is the story of India's rise, the silent superpower of the 21st century. 1. The foundation of power. For decades, India was viewed as a paradox, a land of immense potential held back by poverty, bureaucracy, and political hesitation. But beneath that surface, a transformation was taking shape. A nation once defined by colonial scars began rebuilding itself. Not as an imitator of others, but as a civilization rediscovering its own voice. After independence in 1947, India adopted a policy of non-alignment, refusing to choose sides during the Cold War. It was a bold but quiet statement. India would chart its own path. And while that independence once came at the cost of slower development, today it has become India's greatest advantage. Because while others became trapped in alliances and rivalries, India stayed flexible. It learned from both worlds, Western technology, Eastern strategy, and built something uniquely its own. No one realized it then, but India was planting the seeds of a future superpower, to military modernization and nuclear deterrence. India's transformation into a modern power began with its most guarded secret, the bomb. In May 1974, under the codename Smiling Buddha, India conducted its first nuclear test in the deserts of Pokhran. The world was stunned. This wasn't just a test of science, as it was a declaration, a message that India would never again be vulnerable to domination or invasion. Decades later, India's arsenal stands among the world's elite. Over 100 nuclear warheads, long-range missiles capable of striking deep into Asia, and a growing fleet of nuclear submarines patrolling silent waters. But unlike others, India's doctrine is not built on aggression. It's called no first use, a promise that nuclear weapons exist only as a shield, never as a sword. Still, the shield grows stronger every year. The Indian Armed Forces, the over 1.4 million active soldiers, are now backed by a modernization program that has transformed the nation's defense landscape. The indigenous Tejas fighter jet, the Arjun battle tank, and the BrahMos missile system, one of the fastest in the world, all signal a new era of homegrown innovation. And beyond traditional battlefields, India has embraced the next frontier of warfare, cyber and space defense. Its 2019 Mission Shakti anti-satellite test proved it could strike targets in orbit, joining an exclusive club of space militaries alongside the US, Russia, and China. For a moment that day, the world looked up and realized India wasn't just on Earth's map anymore. It was in orbit. 3. The technological frontier. India's power doesn't only come from weapons, it comes from minds. Every day, more than 600 million Indians connect to the internet, the world's largest digital population, building, coding, and innovating in a digital ecosystem that's expanding faster than almost anywhere else. India's technology industry now rivals Silicon Valley in scale and ambition. From global IT giants like Infosys and TCS to new age startups like Ola, Zomato, and Byju's, India's digital economy is reshaping everything from education to finance, but its ambitions stretch far beyond Earth. The Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, has quietly become one of the most efficient space agencies in the world. In 2014, it stunned the world by sending the Mangalyaan spacecraft to Mars on its first attempt and at a cost lower than most Hollywood films. It wasn't just a scientific achievement, it was a statement India could do what others could. Faster, cheaper, and smarter. Since then, India has launched lunar missions, deployed a vast network of satellites, and even built its own regional navigation system. The Chandrayaan-3 mission, which successfully landed on the moon's south pole in 2023, marked a new chapter in India's story. The moment it joined the small circle of spacefaring nations capable of touching another world. And while much of the world debates artificial intelligence and cybersecurity, India is already integrating both into its defense and economic systems. AI-driven logistics, digital identification for 1.4 billion people, and one of the world's most advanced fintech networks. These are not just upgrades, they're the architecture of a future superpower. For a nation once known for exporting engineers, India is now exporting ideas. 4. Global diplomacy and strategic balance. In geopolitics, power is often measured not by armies, but by alliances. And here too, India's approach is unique. It doesn't follow, it balances. On one side, it maintains deep ties with the West, a member of the Quad Alliance alongside the US, Japan, and Australia, aiming to ensure a free and open Indo-Pacific. India's partnership with America has grown stronger than ever, driven by shared concerns over China's expansion and a mutual interest in technology and trade. Yet at the same time, India has kept its old relationships intact. With Russia, for example, a country that still supplies much of India's defense equipment. It's a delicate dance, one few nations could manage. But for India, non-alignment isn't indecision, it's strategy. In the Middle East, India has become a quiet, stabilizing force, deepening energy ties with the Gulf and building bridges with Israel and Iran alike. In Africa, Indian companies are investing billions in infrastructure, education, and technology, spreading influence not through conquest, but through cooperation. And in multilateral institutions, India's voice grows louder each year. Its bid for a permanent seat on the UN Security Council is no longer a distant dream, but an inevitability of its growing global role. The message is clear: India doesn't need to shout to be heard, because when it speaks, the world listens. 5. The economic ascent. Beneath all this power lies the engine driving it: the economy. India is now the world's 5th largest economy, recently surpassing the United Kingdom, its former colonizer. By the end of this decade, it's projected to reach the top 3, behind only the US and China. Manufacturing hubs are rising in Tamil Nadu and Gujarat. Highways stretch across once remote villages, and with over half its population under the age of 30, India holds something no other major power does: the future itself. Global companies like Apple, Tesla, and Samsung are shifting production to India, seeking stability beyond China. The world's supply chains are reorienting, and India is quietly becoming their backbone. It's not without challenges: inequality, pollution, political tension, but for the first time, the momentum is irreversible. The world's largest democracy is also becoming its most dynamic economy. 6. A new kind of power. Power in the 21st century no longer comes from territory or empire. It comes from resilience, technology, and influence. India's rise is not explosive. It's steady, measured, intentional, patient, the kind of rise that doesn't seek headlines but builds legacies. In a century defined by rivalry between superpowers, India has chosen a different path. One of balance, cooperation, and quiet strength. It is not chasing dominance, but dignity, not expansion, but endurance. And perhaps that's why its rise feels so different, because it isn't built on fear, but on faith. Faith in a billion people, faith in progress, faith in the idea that a nation once written off by history could become one of its authors. As the sun sets over Mumbai's skyline, reflecting off glass towers and satellite dishes, it's clear this is not the India the world once knew. It's the India the world will have to reckon with. In the shadow of giants, India is becoming one itself. Thanks for watching. If you want more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe.